Previously, in part 1 of this box set, I set off to go round the Island of Skye from Taynuilt, a distance of over 300 miles. Unfortunately, I had a few issues which kept me camped in Loch Na Droma Buidhe for 2 days, as I forgot my bank card PIN number, then my airbed developed a leak. A large stag visited the campsite at night time, and its grunts kept me awake. It's nearing the rutting season, and a horny stag can be very aggressive even to humans. Putting all this behind me, on the morning of day 3 I awoke refreshed, ready to continue the challenge of going to Skye. I quickly dismantled camp and threw everything into the boat before the midges made a meal of me. I motored 100 yards offshore, stopped and then stored everything in its proper place, before turning the bows towards open sea. Although I loved this campsite, I was glad to see the back of it for a while. The forecast for the day was light winds with a low cloud base, clearing to sun by midday. I set course for the cliffs at the start of Ardnamurchan, passing Kilcoen on the way. Far out to sea I could see the low-lying islands of Colin Tyree. Starting my round of Ardnamurchan, the sea was very much calmer than the previous afternoon, so I was glad that I had waited. Having made a few trips round Ardnamurchan Point recently, I now recognise most of its main features, like the patterns in these cliffs. And it's always nice seeing another boat on such a remote and treacherous coastline. Then the lighthouse appears, marking the end of Ardnamurchan Point. I'm now at the most westerly point of mainland UK, and although the tide is not fast flowing here, there is a hell of a lot of water coming round the point, and any wind against tide can cause severe issues for small boats. Of course, like any stretch of water, I had no issues in this grey but calm day. As I was hoping to go to Skye, I set course for the Island of Skye, which is approximately halfway from the lighthouse to Skye. It's a 10-mile open sea crossing to Skye, so I settled down and tuned into the rhythm of the sea. And before I could sing a full sea shanty, I was approaching the Island of Skye. My initial plan was to camp overnight in Skye after doing a complete circumnavigation of the island, but as the mist was down in the hilltops, I decided to stop briefly, get a phone signal to update the weather forecast, then push on to the Island of Skye. Water was pouring out the harbour area, which would soon be dry, and the forecast still confirmed low cloud clearing to sun soon, so I set off on the next leg to Elgol and Skye. I enjoyed an atmospheric run along the eastern coastline of Skye before starting in the 15-mile sea crossing to the Elgol Peninsula. And once again I settled down to enjoy the rhythm of the sea in the long crossing. If the sea had been rougher, I would have crossed to the Sleat Peninsula, which is around 6 miles away, but as it was relatively calm, I chose the longer Elgol Peninsula route to save fuel in the long run. I navigate by compass bearings as I don't have a chart plotter, and I'm also very familiar with the landmarks seen by eye. During the crossing, the weather forecast came to fruition, As the sky brightened and patches of blue sky began to appear, Egg was now just a distant dot above my wake. Very gradually the mighty Coolin Mountains on the Island of Skye began to draw closer. I aimed to hit the coastline at Bonnie Prince Charlie's Cave, which is hidden in the rugged but low cliffs of Elgol. It was in this cave that Prince Charles enjoyed his last meal in Skye after his defeat at the Battle of Culloden and before departing for France. The scenic Shatter Cliffs of Elgol make a lovely lead-in to Loch Scavig and the magnificent Coolin Mountains, and I was delighted to see the sea flattening and the cloud base starting to rise, displaying most of her hidden charms. I pass the village of Elgol, where the tour boats take tourists to Loch Carrusk to admire the scenery. And what a spectacular place it is. The distinctive shape of Scournas 3 holds centre stage, while Camasunary Bay and Blaven lie to the right. It's not easy to capture the true feeling of height of these mountains on video, as many rise to over 3,000 feet directly from the sea. I felt very small and insignificant as I craned my neck towards the lofty heights. As I had been here several times before, I headed for a small sandy bay, well away from the tour boats. I wanted to soak in the atmosphere of a special place, and I also wanted to have a coffee. It felt great landing and having a little leg stretch as I had been in the boat most of the morning. I then set up the camp stove and boiled some water for my coffee break. While I've sat and slurped coffee in some stunning locations in the past, this little beach really takes the biscuit. It's a perfect paradise in a silent, silvery, sandy bay, surrounded by hard black basalt and gabbro rock. It's some of the oldest rock in the world, and I felt honoured to be sitting in the middle of it all, knowing that not many people in their late 60s would travel all the way from Taynuilt in a 4-metre-long inflatable boat just to have a coffee here. Relaxed, refreshed and then relieved, I jumped back into my boat for a closer look at these magnificent, magical mountains. I could have stayed the rest of the day, but time and tide dictated I must be on my way. I was absolutely delighted that I had reached Skye, but I was also disappointed that I had still forgotten my bank card PIN number, which meant I no longer had enough fuel for a complete round of the island. Apart from that, the weather forecast was predicting light winds would end in a couple of days, so I decided to cut my losses and circumnavigate the small island of Skye before heading for the Sleep Peninsula, which is the most southern tip of Skye. Skye sits just off the southwestern coast of Skye, separated from the main island by the half-mile wide Sound of Skye. Gavin Maxwell, the author of Ring of Bright Water fame, once bought the island to build his basking shark processing plant. He slaughtered hundreds of these huge docile creatures before his venture failed and he left the island. Although I've been through the Sound of Skye several times before, I've never circumnavigated the island, so at least I was doing something new. Unfortunately, because the low tide exposes a bar across the harbour entrance where Maxwell built his processing plant, I could not enter to see the remains of the building, or see the rusting steam locomotive he also shipped across to assist extracting the fish oil from the sharks. In truth, I didn't find the northern shores of Skye very interesting, until the islands of Canna and Rum appeared on the horizon, and I turned to follow the island's seaward side. The sun now nicely illuminated Skye's low cliff line, and the still shaded cooling hills made a lovely backdrop. I slowed to admire a pair of sea eagles, who also carefully watched me. Then I turned into Camerson and Garl, a sheltered bay on the eastern side where the remaining inhabitants of the island live. A lovely place to see on a nice sunny summer's day, but it must be a hard place to stay in the long dark winter days. Although I love the peace and quiet of my own promised land around Taynuilt, I would miss the village store and of course Oban town for my weekly shop. Having completed my round of Skye, I happily headed for the Point of Sleet, the most southerly tip of Skye, almost 10 miles away across the open sea. What a picturesque panorama the Island of Skye presents while on the way. It didn't take long to cross to and then pass the point, and once aligned with Malig and the mainland, I turned into a little hidden bay to set up camp for the night. I landed and offloaded my camping gears in this little bay, but felt the swell could get up if the wind changed direction a little, so moved it to a more sheltered bay later. I pitched the tent in a flat grass area well away from trees and possible hiding spots for werewolves. I was determined to get a good night's sleep, and I was close enough to keep a good eye on the boat. But best of all, there were no other humans within miles. I slurped some beers and made my dinner, and then, as it was still early in the evening, I decided to take a tin of beer for a walk. I climbed a hill and watched the sunset over the Island of Rum. For me, this is what retirement is all about. I slept like a log that night, and my plan for the morning was to head to Arisaig, which will be in part 3 of this box set. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.